Hello, OT amplifiers, and welcome to this episode of the Amplify OT podcast. This episode is a little bit different because I am interviewing the individuals who are running for President-elect of AOTA and Vice President of AOTA. These are elected board positions for AOTA, and elections are opening on February 2nd of 2024 and close on February 23rd of 2024. Because there were so many candidates and they had such fantastic things to say, we have actually broken up these interviews into 3 separate podcast episodes. 2 episodes are dedicated to President-elect, and 1 episode is dedicated to the Vice President. Now, I do want to make it super clear that there is absolutely no rhyme or reason as to why certain folks were grouped together or what order they appear in. I also want to make sure it's clear that I, myself, and Amplify OT are not endorsing any specific candidate. I think all of them have such an interesting perspective to bring to the position, and it's really going to be a tough choice. So I encourage you to listen to all the different interviews and hear the different perspectives, but also hear where they overlap in mission. For AOTA President-elect interviews, you will be hearing from Karen Sames, Michael Pizzi, Vikram Pagpatan, and Arame Anverzadeh. For Vice President, you will hear from Natalie Chang-Wright and Cristina Reyes. And I just want to say that I am so grateful that all of them agreed to participate in this project and that they are willing to put forward their time to support our profession for the better. There are numerous reasons to participate in this election, not only because we're voting for President-elect and the Vice President, but there are also 4 individuals running for open positions on the Board of Directors. Now, unfortunately, many of these positions run unopposed. And while it's fantastic to see individuals who are getting involved and are willing to serve our profession, it's always great to have a choice. It's also unfortunate that for some positions, there were no nominations received, such as the Mental Health Special Interest Section Chairperson, the Home and Community Health Special Interest Section Chairperson, and the OTA Representative-elect to the Representative Assembly. Unfortunately, there were no RA nominations received in Alabama, Connecticut, Georgia, Illinois, Kansas, Maryland, Montana, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Ohio, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin. So if you live in any of those states and you're an AOTA member, I highly encourage you to consider running for the Representative Assembly so that you can represent the interests and beliefs of your state. A few years ago, AOTA put out statistics saying that on average, only 4% of AOTA members vote in AOTA elections. We need to make that change. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into these interviews, and I can't wait to hear your perspectives. Dr. Cristina Reyes Smith is an associate professor and director of admissions in the College of Health Professions Division of Occupational Therapy at the Medical University of South Carolina. Dr. Smith has served in multiple national leadership roles, including as a director for the American Occupational Therapy Association Board of Directors from 2020 to 2023, and on the editorial board of the Journal of Occupational Therapy of Education, JOTE. She is a co-founder of the Coalition of Occupational Therapy Advocates for Diversity, or COTAD, which is a national 501c3 organization. In 2022, Dr. Smith was invited to serve on the American Occupational Therapy Foundation, or AOTF, Standing for Research, Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity, STRIDE Committee. She was the founder and business development coordinator for Vida Bella Services, LLC, a pediatric OT and PT agency with a focus on providing access to quality care for underserved communities for almost 10 years. She serves as the co-director of the HRSA MUSC Occupational Therapy Scholarships for Students from Disadvantaged Backgrounds program, and Dr. Smith also serves as the chair of the MUSC College of Health Professions Faculty Assembly and Faculty Council. She has also previously served as the chair of the MUSC Faculty Senate Institutional Advancement Committee. She's coordinated multiple annual events, published and presented nationally and internationally with a focus on access to care, as well as clinical practice and education with diverse and underserved communities. She teaches multiple courses on leadership and management, advises student organizations, and mentors doctoral students in the entry-level and post-professional OTD programs at MUSC. Let's welcome Dr. Cristina Reyes Smith. Well, welcome, Cristina, to the Amplify OT podcast. I am so excited to bring you on and have you part of this exciting project for AOTA elections. And so to kick us off, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about you and how you found yourself here.
Sure, Clarice, and I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for what you're doing for OT. Also, I love what you're doing with the platform and elevating our profession with advocacy and policy in particular, too. So I have been an occupational therapist for almost 20 years now. And I was looking back at my AOTA membership, and it was 2004 in June. So almost 20 years. It kind of blows my mind. I serve as the admissions director, and I'm an associate professor at the Medical University of South Carolina. Right now, I've been a part of multiple initiatives, both related to occupational therapy interprofessionally as well across our university. And often they have to do with access to care. They have to do with diverse and underserved communities, different leadership development programs for our students, for um, colleagues as well. And so I have also had the opportunity to be involved with these kinds of initiatives across the country. I served on the board of directors for the AOTA from 2020 to 2023.
A good
I was
time.
elected. It was. I was elected in January 2020. I did not know how exciting it was going to be for the next few years during that time, but we absolutely learned a lot. And so my term ended July of 2023, and I've been taking some time over this past year for rest and rejuvenation, a lot of reflection also, which has been really great. A holistic approach to my own health and well-being has been a part of that. And I'm really excited about this opportunity to run as vice president of the AOTA.
So, what made you decide to run for vice president, and why now? Because you say you took some time off, but it sounds like it's only about a year. So why right now for VP?
So that's a great question, Clarice. I think we really are at a pivotal time in our profession as we have been through this global crisis, multiple crises, really, as a profession, as a society. And we're in a place where awareness is still low of the profession, burnout is high, admissions numbers are low of people entering the profession, and we have people exiting the profession at a higher rate than before. And so we really have multiple areas to address. We're a little over 100 years old from our centennial, and we're still talking about challenges related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sometimes the identity of occupational therapy, what it is, what it entails, what is our scope. Last year with women's health, that was a place where there was a lot of dialogue about what is the role of occupational therapy in women's health. And so having been on the board recently, having been in other leadership positions as well, I served twice, 2 terms on the representative assembly of the AOTA for my state. And I'm a co-founder of COTAD, the Coalition of Occupational Therapy Advocates for Diversity, which just celebrated a 10-year anniversary.
Congrats.
Thank you. All of those experiences have allowed me to be involved and engage, collaborate with other leaders in our profession, occupational therapists, occupational therapy assistants, students at times as well, to help to move the profession forward in these areas with the centennial vision. The vision was published. The citation I used was from 2006, which is also the year that I graduated from OT school. And so I consider myself to be a child of the centennial vision that has really framed my identity in the profession, my goals, my aims, and my why for many of the things that I do now as an educator, as an entrepreneur. I had a company for almost 10 years where we had a focus on access to quality care for underserved communities with OT, PT, and pediatrics. Also with research that I've been able to be involved with the focus on health disparities, access to care, leadership development. For example, we had a grant meeting this morning on a training program that we're trying to develop around early intervention and access. And so that has really been tied into the Centennial Vision and then Vision 2025 and beyond. We're still in that figuring out what does that and beyond look like as a profession. And the Centennial Vision was so powerful, and it was such a time when we turned at the anniversary for the profession to come together. Our membership really skyrocketed. The sense of camaraderie and community really skyrocketed. And I think we have an opportunity in the envisioning of the and beyond piece to bring our profession together and get on the same page about what are our core values? What is our core identity? Yes, we are different. We are diverse. We have a variety of practice settings. We have a variety of areas of expertise and characteristics in our identities. But what are those things that are core features to who we are? What is the lifeblood, the ethos of our profession now
Yeah.
and into the future? And so that is why I'm running for vice president, because I want to be right in the middle of that envisioning. I feel that I can help in unique ways from my background, my experiences
Mm.
personally and professionally, and the collaborations and coalitions that I've been able to help be a part of and help lead at times as well in the past.
Yeah, and you've already kind of touched on some of these priorities. And talking about the Centennial, I was a student during the Centennial conference, and so you're right, that was a big time. It was one of the biggest conferences in history, I believe, in Philadelphia, and that was very exciting. Then entering into the field right after that. But you've kind of talked about maybe some of your priorities, meaning like diversity, as well as talking about workforce issues, admission issues. So if it was up to you, what would be kind of your day one priorities if you were elected VP?
So for me, day one would be about establishing relationships for
Mm.
that future, for future collaborations. And in some cases, it would be reestablishing relationships that I've had in the past from this different perspective. But it would also be about establishing new relationships with some that I may not have had a relationship with in the future. So, for example, the MDI network, the Multicultural Diversity and Inclusion Network, it would be a high priority for me to connect with that group, if not day one, sometime very close to it. I feel like that's a group that, in spite of all of our efforts around DEI and the great gains that we've had with the DEI committee, sometimes I think, or the message that I've gotten is that the MDI group still don't feel completely
Mm.
engaged in the way that they would like to be. The ASAP group, the affiliation of state association presidents would also be a high priority group to re-engage with,
Mm. Yeah.
to identify what are their priorities. There are many, many needs, but I think we have an enormous opportunity for continued collaboration and engagement with them. So many people right now they choose one or the other. Either they are AOTA members or they are state association members.
Yeah.
But it's not effective. It's at a loss to all of us when we don't have that active membership and engagement at both of the levels. Also, meeting with other association leaders would be a high priority. So, on day one, I would like to reach out to the leadership group to try to listen,
Mhm.
identify what are those needs, what are those priorities, and then we would go from there to establish an action plan to move forward.
Yeah, it's great. And that's a lot of great priorities. Collaboration is definitely a key of this election. That's a term that I seem to keep hearing over and over. And I love that involvement of state associations as someone who's volunteered both on the AOTA and state association side. And I'm sure you have as well, that you can see how much there is of a connection and how much we need both of those advocacy fronts in order to protect all sides of occupational therapy and advance it. So, which
Absolutely.
brings us then right into AOTA. So, what, in your opinion, is the primary role or mission of AOTA within our profession?
So, our primary mission is really to represent our members, but really our profession at large. I think sometimes it gets compartmentalized AOTA members, AOTA non members,
Hmm.
but it really is AOTA members, prospective AOTA members, and the profession at large. And so, with that, we represent with regard to regulatory affairs, interprofessionally across our national association partners and potential partners. Internationally, the AOTA represents us as well. And it really sets the stage, the tone. It steers the ship for our profession with regard to education, initiatives, resources, even though we have other organizations that have critical needs in our profession, AOT really has been at the center of that in the development of ACOT, AOTF, even COTAD has roots through AOTA initiatives. And so it is that representation of the membership and the profession at large that I see as the critical mission and role of the AOTA.
Yeah, and I love the members and prospective members, right? Versus members and non-members. And so I think I know the answer of whether or not you believe membership is important, but I'd love to know, what would you say, especially to our prospective members, as to why AOTA membership is so important?
Yeah, AOTA membership is critical for us as individual practitioners, as groups, teams, organizations. AOTA, as I said, sets the tone, the standards, the strategic priorities for our profession, which really do trickle down to other areas and organizations of our profession. AOTA membership is definitely critical. So another reason why AOTA membership is so critical is because AOTA engages with other healthcare organizations and non-healthcare organizations interprofessionally. And when we're going up against policy decisions, against funding, against scope of practice types of challenges and initiatives, AOTA is the organization that is fighting for occupational therapy.
Right.
And the association is only as strong as its membership. And that comes down to funding. It comes down to resources that are provided. It comes down to impact of our profession. We are only as strong as our membership. So I encourage everyone to commit to being an AOTA member for life. You'll continue to benefit from the AOTA, whether you are paying your dues or not, so to speak.
Right.
But it really is just fundamental for our professional identity and for the vitality of our profession.
Yeah, well, as someone who's also an AOTA member, I definitely agree, especially on that advocacy piece. Now, you said that you've been on the board before, and this is a question I've saved for our vice presidents. How will you support a collaborative relationship between the president, the vice president, and the rest of the board?
So in the role as vice president, I would have the primary aim of supporting our president, our board, our staff association, and our membership to the best of my ability. And so communication would really be key for that. My strategy is to listen first and then to share, and to share with humility. Cultural humility is something that we talk about a great deal. And I think it's critical for leadership to be able to try to have empathy, compassion from where people are coming from. I also am keenly aware that leaders are also human.
Yes.
And sometimes we tend to forget about the humanity that we have in each other. And so grace is critical. Having opportunities for conflict resolution is critical. There's a really great book called Crucial Conversations that I have really relied on in my journey as an occupational therapist and as a clinician leader. And it's about calming down and being able to talk about these major issues that are deeply personal to us often. Some that may impact us to our core, but not talking does not get us anywhere.
Right.
And screaming at each other does not get us anywhere either. And so that goes back to just seeing the humanity in each other, creating spaces for safe dialogue to help get to some of those next places. And I feel like some of the challenges over the past couple of years in particular that our conflicts have arisen nationally and unfolded often in social media or other forums, but we haven't been able to get to the resolution state of those yet and communicate that to the community as well. And so that would be one of my goals, would be to try to help to bring together our leadership, our membership, and our profession to that resolution and moving forward together. And that has really become a motto for me, not only when I was running for AOTA Board of Directors, but for now as VP, moving forward together. That's the only way that we're going to be able to get to where we want to be in the future.
Yeah, I love that humanity piece. I think it was during one of the DEI presentations at the Momentum Summit for AOTA where they said we need to make room for mistakes. But I really liked that statement and reminding ourselves that none of us are perfect beings and that it's okay to make mistakes as long as we can move forward together. So thinking of that humanity piece, the last workforce survey conducted by AOTA showed that 25% of practitioners are considering leaving the field of OT. And also, AOTA had a 7% drop in membership this past year. So do you think these issues are related? And also, what do you think is the best way to try and address these workforce burnout and also AOTA membership drops?
Yeah, so these are really great questions that you asked, Clarice. And I do think that they are related. Last year, we had a rollout of a new membership model. There was a new technology that was a part of that with subscription services. And so with that transition, we did lose a number of membership that we've been working hard to regain. What I hear from clinician friends and colleagues who are actively practicing, the regulatory burden has been significant for people. They report that the documentation at times, the administrative overhead and burdens are just overwhelming. I have friends who own private practices, and that was my experience as well, was that the admin overhead. I had a company for almost 10 years, providing the pediatric OT and PT. It was very challenging just to get reimbursed for services that had already been rendered and expenses paid for. And so with our healthcare system at large, the Affordable Care Act attempted to alleviate some of those challenges. It created opportunities for us. We're in the top 10 essential health benefits, which is incredible. I know AOT is very hard for that. But a lot of the regulations are being mediated at the state level. And so if we're not having that advocacy at the state level with Medicaid, with early intervention, and some of those different regulatory bodies, the admin overhead continues to increase. I took a group of students to our state house in South Carolina back in the fall as a part of, that's an annual visit that we do on or around AOT Hill Day. And we met with the director of medical affairs for our state at that time with Medicaid and Department of Health and Human Services. And so the understanding of what occupational therapy is and does was not ideal.
Yeah.
And he read the definition to us directly from the policy manual. And he said, I see the words here, but I still don't really understand. And he was a pediatric medical doctor, a pediatrician. And so the ongoing education, the advocacy, the lack of awareness of our profession, these are some of the factors that our clinicians and practitioners are just getting burnt. It contributes to the burnout.
Yeah.
Limited awareness, the limited appreciation. And then one other huge piece of it that I've seen in myself in the past and in others is we care so much.
Yes.
We have so much passion for this profession, for our patients, if we're in education, for our students, for our communities, that sometimes it is to our own detriment because we are so empathetic and we will invest our time, our energy, our talents to the point of overwhelm at times. And having been there myself over a few years ago, sometimes it's a slippery slope. Sometimes we wake up one day and say, how did I get in this situation?
Yeah.
And you add a global pandemic and all these different crises over the past couple of years to it. And I think some people, and I have a friend who has currently, she's exited the profession for now.
Mm-hmm.
And I do hope she'll make her way back, but she just needs a break for her own personal well-being. And so we care so much about others, we forget to care for ourselves. And over the past couple of years, I've been speaking much more about self-care. And I have to always qualify it to say, not the ADL kind of self-care necessarily, but the wellness self-care and having habits that are healthy for ourselves. I have advisees and I ask them, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? Are you exercising regularly? Do you have good social support? Are you finding time for yourself? And I try to ask them this regularly, and I try to ask myself this regularly too. That's why this last 6 months, I've been really trying to focus on having those healthier habits so that when the hard times come, and I know that they will, whether it's through the VP role or other aspects of life, I'll be ready, I'll be stronger for it, and I'll have a more solid foundation to be able to navigate those challenges.
Yes. And I can see how all of these are connecting is that, you're talking about reaching those individual practitioners, and that connects back to reaching out with ASAP and wanting to build better connections with them. And as someone who's also experienced that severe level of burnout, I can definitely attest that one of the only things that helped keep me tied to this profession was the people I knew within AOTA and within our state association. And so is it fair to say that kind of your main themes, if we had to summarize your campaign for VP, it sounds a lot like connection, of reaching out to individuals and also some of those diversity elements and community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I've summarized my platform as focus on leadership, advocacy,
Mm-hmm.
and access to care. And my teaching area is in leadership and management.
Mm-hmm.
My experience has been in leadership roles, and leadership development is an area I'm very passionate about with my students, with colleagues, other clinicians, educators. And I have to admit, I never saw myself as a leader. As a young person, I had a negative view of leadership and leaders and what I thought that entailed. And what I discovered was very different as I've grown as a person. Um, I have been motivated by the needs that I have seen around me in my own backyard, in my community, in the people in my life over time. And that has taken me down this journey of leadership.
Mm.
And so in our profession, many people don't see themselves as leaders either. But occupational therapy practitioners are fantastic leaders
Yes.
when they are able to see that, applying the short term and long term strategic planning process, looking at the big picture, but also the
Mm-hmm.
details, applying action steps. And so I do think that we need more training opportunities and people having time to access training opportunities
Yeah.
because I believe we really can solve some of the world's greatest challenges and problems through occupational therapy if we provide those structures, provide the resources, and provide the support in our members and prospective members to help move forward societal needs.
I
Just
think anyone who's listened to me has heard me say that I think we can solve many of the world's problems and that everyone needs an OT or OTA in their life. And so thinking of that leadership piece, right, where we don't always see ourselves as leaders, and I can definitely resonate with that feeling as well. What advice would you give to someone who's interested in volunteering or taking on a leadership role?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I would say is everyone has a leader within them.
Mm.
And it's just a matter of getting to know who that person is, what are their strengths, what are their areas for growth, and what's possible. And I tell my students, if you graduate when you're 25 years old and you retire when you're 65 years old, hypothetically,
Mhm.
that's 40 years of
Yeah.
career where anything can happen. I'm running for vice president of the AOTA. I will tell you, anything can happen. Never saw this coming, but here we are. And so I love helping people to get to know that leader within. I'm happy to meet with anyone if they're interested and brainstorming a little bit. That's one of my favorite things to do is
Mhm.
sort of that in that visioning. Um, But I would also suggest start with smaller roles. So no
Yeah.
one runs for board of directors in their first year of practice. Uh, that would be interesting. But it's about taking on those smaller roles where you do
Mm.
feel comfortable, maybe in your community or in your, in some organizations at your state level. We have
Yeah.
huge holes at times, vacancies in our state leadership
Yeah.
for roles like special interest section leadership or district leadership, where people can get involved. And often they're meeting online now, so you don't have to necessarily travel for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be hard to make time, but often it's a few hours per month that you're
Yeah.
contributing to these groups. I encourage you to start with smaller roles and then go from there. And then the other thing that I would say is just to know that imposter syndrome impacts all of us,
Definitely.
regardless of what stage of the leadership journey we are in. Anytime you are in a new role or expanding a role to try something new, I know for me, I had to really work on mental discipline because my brain would go to all the failures from the past, which I won't go into at large right now, but so I had to be disciplined in my
Mhm.
thoughts. And sometimes I would write out what were the things I was proud of or what I had
Yeah.
accomplished or what were the goals. I would put it on a Post-it note, or I have Evernote, which is a great app
Yeah.
that I can use across my devices. And so I would reference that kind of regularly. Also having really a good theme song has been critical.
What's your
Uh,
theme song? Can we know it?
so my theme songs vary, and I haven't gotten one with BP just yet. There's great music that is very powerful and
Mhm.
that can really help to move us forward. I've been learning Claire de Lune on
Oh,
the
I love that
piano.
song. Yeah, that piece is great.
Yes. And so for me, I think that has become a bit of a theme song because I
Mm.
never imagined I'd be learning Claire de Lune. And here we are.
It's a tough
I have
piece too. It's not an easy one.
Yeah, I have the first 2 pages down, and this last 6 months has been a time of learning new skills and developing new skills in a fun way. My
Mhm.
son got a 3D printer from Santa Claus,
Oh,
for
yeah.
example, some of those kinds of things. So I have that in my head regularly, and sometimes if I'm about to have an interview or teach a
Mhm.
class, especially in the early years of becoming an educator, I would play the song beforehand and sometimes over and over again. And it would just help fill my spirit, help
Yeah.
me move forward, and give me the confidence because I've struggled with performance anxiety my entire life. Uh, so a good theme song is really key for the occasion. It can vary for sure.
I love that. So, to wrap up our interview, of course, the most important question is why should someone vote for Cristina Reyes Smith for vice president?
Well, Clarice, I am an experienced, passionate leader who has been motivated to ultimately help our communities, our society, our workforce, our students to have the best outcomes possible. I've done that through collaboration. I have a record of working interprofessionally, intraprofessional, working across major ideological differences to bring forward meaningful change and action. And that is what it has been all about for me is
Yeah.
to help bring about positive change for our profession and our communities and society. So I have an open leadership style. I
Mhm.
love to hear from practitioners, students, educators directly. When I was involved with COTAD, I spearheaded COTAD Ed for educators where we could
Mm.
have meetings twice per year. I collaborated to spearhead, I have to qualify that. I collaborated with Stephanie Lancaster, who has another great podcast too, to help start that initiative to facilitate communication. And so we would host sessions at the national conference through AOTA and at the
Mhm.
education summit through AOTA as well. And those meetings do still continue. I think I'm a strong candidate for the vice president role for AOTA, and I would love to help serve our profession and our society in this way if given the opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, Cristina. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview and to share your perspectives with all of our AOTA members and prospective members of AOTA. And this is my reminder, and I'm sure you agree, to make sure to vote. Make sure to vote in this year's AOTA elections and all the upcoming ones. So thank you so much, Cristina. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Clarice. I really appreciate you too and all that you do.
Hey, I'm Clarice, and I'm the founder of Amplify OT, and thank you so much for either watching this video or listening to the Amplify OT podcast. If you haven't already, I strongly encourage you to listen to all the different interviews. And of course, I encourage you to join our Amplifiers community at learn.amplifyot.com in order to continue this important conversation. You can now join the Amplify OT membership for free, or we have our full access passes. I have the link in the description for you, or you can go to learn.amplifyot.com. You can also join our community by downloading the Amplify OT app, now available on iOS devices. Our mission at Amplify OT is to make learning about policy easy so that you can engage in advocacy. And a key part of advocacy is voting, so I sincerely hope you participate in this year's AOTA elections. Voting opens on February 2nd, 2024 and closes on February 23rd at 11:59 a.m. Eastern Time. And as a reminder, you must be a member of AOTA as of January 2nd in order to vote, and you must also be an active member at the time that you cast your vote. So thank you again to all the candidates for participating in this project. It is so exciting to see this level of energy around this election. And of course, I hope you come back to Amplify OT to learn more about Medicare, billing, policy, and advocacy, so that you can be the change that you want to see in our healthcare system and within our profession. Thanks so much again for watching, and don't forget to share this video so that others can hear what the candidates have to say. And, of course, make sure to subscribe to the Amplify OT podcast on your favorite podcast app. Remember, if you don't advocate for occupational therapy, who will?